I, 29-year-old female, have a friend called Maya. Maya and I have been friends for 9 years after meeting at university. Maya went through a lot of mental health issues in her early to mid-20s, which impacted her career prospects. But a couple of years ago, she found an outlet in writing and now writes and publishes her stories online. They are of the spicy romance variety. I've never read any of them because they're just not my thing, but I know she has a lot of regular readers. Recently, Maya shared that she had been contacted by a small publishing company which publishes ebooks who were interested in publishing one of the stories she had been sharing online. I was ecstatic for her, as it is a move towards making writing a profession, which is what she really wants. About 3 weeks ago, a mutual friend of ours, Amy, contacted me and asked if I had read any of Maya's current story, as she had looked it up online and she thought it had some eerie similarities to my life. I looked it up and read a big chunk of it, and it was more than just similarities. It was basically a melodramatic reimagining of my life, specifically about my relationship with my fiancé and my complicated relationship with my father. I don't know how relevant this is, but she also altered their characters and certain situations to make the plot pretty toxic. I was devastated and disgusted, to say the least. I met up with Maya and asked how she could do this to me. Her explanation was that she was so inspired by my life and the things I had told her that the ideas just came to her. I kept saying they weren't her ideas. They were sensationalized details of my real life. She didn't have a single original thought in the whole story. Maya apologized profusely for hurting me and that she was embarrassed by how much she had taken from life. But she really loved writing the book. I told her I wasn't comfortable having my private life aired like that. Maya said nothing in the book was identifiable as me, so it wasn't like she had done anything illegal. And I said, well, we'll see about that. I have contacted lawyers, and they have said suing her would be largely pointless in terms of stopping the book from being published. But starting legal proceedings might scare a small publishing company enough to drop her as an author. I am seriously considering doing this. Worst case, I can't do anything to stop the book from going ahead, but I've caused her an iota of the stress and hurt she's caused me. Best case, this creepy project never sees the light of day. A couple of my friends are saying I shouldn't sue her, because at the end of the day, this is her work and an opportunity for her to make a career for herself and take care of her child, after all she's been through. I know this could ruin things for her, and I might be acting out of anger, but I really think it's justified after she betrayed my trust like this. Would I be the idiot to go ahead with suing? Edit/mini update. For everyone talking about the Streisand effect, I am not in the US. Court's legal records here are not something you can Google or access easily. That being said, I realize Maya could publicize a lawsuit herself to get publicity, and that ultimately I am more concerned about anonymity, and it's not worth the risk. I will not be proceeding with the lawsuit. Some people suggested reaching out to the publisher privately, and I'm going to look into that. But either way, I won't drag it out into a court process. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. You're not a jerk for being mad, but don't waste your time and, more importantly, your money on a lawsuit. You can tell her that if she publishes the book, then she loses her friend. Also, make it clear you will tell any shared friends that she will steal their lives to write her stories and profit off them without ever giving them a dime. The lawyers are half right. Suing her would be pointless. I think they know a pointless lawsuit won't stop a publisher though. The lawyers just want a paycheck. Comment 2. Not the idiot. I really don't get the bumhole votes here. It's not her story to tell. Your other friend clearly saw that the book was about you, so it's not like Maya hasn't hidden it that well. Chances are that others will too. What a major jerk to expose a friend. Expose their life story, vulnerabilities, and secrets. She knew what she was doing by not telling you in the first place. I don't know if it's the best idea to sue her. It will just attach the book more to your name and can be used as PR. Now for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for sticking around after my last post. I've got an update for you, and let me tell you, it's been a busy couple of weeks. So after I decided not to go through with the lawsuit against Maya, I thought maybe things would calm down. Boy, was I wrong. Maya's story, the one based on my life, got picked up by the publishing company. They loved it. The next thing I know, it's being promoted everywhere. I'm talking social media ads, email blasts, the works. And with every new ad, I felt like my life was being put on display for the world to see. Maya and I had been friends for nearly a decade, and I thought I knew her. But seeing my personal life twisted into her spicy romance novel made me question everything. Remember how she struggled with her mental health in the past? Well, it turns out that during those times, she'd been keeping a detailed journal. Not just about her feelings, but about everything I'd ever told her in confidence. That's where she got all the material for her book. Now let's talk about my fiancé. He's been my rock through all of this. But when the story started gaining traction, he was mortified. The character based on him was portrayed as this controlling and manipulative guy, which couldn't be further from the truth. He's the sweetest man I know, and seeing him hurt by Maya's betrayal added fuel to my fire. Then came the confrontation. I couldn't just sit back and watch this happen, so I went to Maya's place. I wanted answers. I wanted her to look me in the eyes and tell me why she did it. But when I got there, she wasn't alone. Our mutual friend Amy was there too. And guess what? They were celebrating the success of the book that was ripping my life apart. I was furious. I felt like I was in some twisted reality show. Amy tried to calm me down, saying it was all just fiction and that I should be flattered. Flattered? My personal struggles were being sold for entertainment. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. But here's where it gets even crazier. Maya's ex, the father of her child, caught wind of the book. He wasn't too pleased about how he was depicted either. He threatened to take her to court over it, claiming it was slander. The irony wasn't lost on me. In the midst of all this, the small publishing company started getting cold feet. They didn't want a legal battle on their hands, especially with the father of Maya's child. They pulled back on some of the promotions and started to reconsider their contract with her. And then, the most jaw-dropping moment of all happened. A local book club picked up Maya's book for their monthly read. And who was in that book club? My own mother. She had no idea the story was based on her daughter's life. When she found out, she was heartbroken. She couldn't believe her friend's daughter, someone she'd watched grow up, could do something like this. The tension between Maya and me reached a boiling point. We had a huge argument in front of our friends. I told her she had crossed a line, and she just kept saying it was all for her art. That's when I realized our friendship was over. I couldn't trust her anymore. But here's where karma comes into play. Remember how Maya's ex was threatening legal action? Well, he followed through. And because of the stress, Maya's writing suffered. She couldn't focus, and her readers started to notice. The quality of her work declined, and slowly, the buzz around her book died down. The publishing company officially dropped her, citing the legal issues and the drop in readership. Maya was left with a tarnished reputation and a book that no one wanted to read anymore. It was a subtle shift, but in the end, her own actions led to her downfall. As for me, I'm just trying to pick up the pieces. My fiancé and I are working through it, and my mom has been incredibly supportive. It's been a tough lesson, but I've learned that not everyone who smiles at you is your friend. My wife cancels again, so I trash her excuses. She tries playing the victim, but a surprise twist reveals she's been. This is the first time I've had drama with my best friend since high school. Trenton, both 27-year-old males. I've known his wife Chrissy since college, and during their wedding I met Becca, who was the maid of honor, 28-year-old female. Really cool person. She has a 6-year-old who she brings to Trenton's/Chrissy's when I'm there, so I've gotten to know Becca well. Recently I broke up with my girlfriend, and I was hanging out more at Trenton's because Chrissy is pregnant, with permission. Chrissy suggested that since I don't have anyone to do things with right now, that I should get closer to Becca, because she likes to try new places too. Becca is fun, easy on the eyes, and would provide great company. We made plans to check out a new brewery, and I was clear that it was as friends. We texted back and forth a few times during the week leading up. Saturday comes, and 2 hours before she calls frantically, saying her kid was having a meltdown because of her dad's parents and was sick, so she had to cancel. I told her it was all good. The next week, we didn't talk as much, and Chrissy asked if I was going to give the friendship another go. I said maybe. On Monday, Becca called me apologizing and asked if I wanted to check out the brewery on Friday. I said absolutely, literally 1 hour before she calls me, almost in tears, saying babysitter cancelled, and asked if I'd be okay waiting for another hour. She was going to take her kid to her parents, who lived 30 minutes away, and then would meet me. I told her I wasn't going to wait around another hour, because the whole point of this was to have friends to do things with. I had been bailed on twice, so I was going to go. She offered to have me come to her place, and she'd make us a drink on the back deck, and we could hang out there for the night until her kid went to bed. I said that wasn't the kind of friendship I was wanting, and it just felt like our schedules were not aligning. I wanted a friend who I could do things with consistently. My time is valuable, and 2 weekends in a row, I made plans that fell through. I said maybe there was too much baggage here. She apologized and said she wanted to make it up to me. I said there was no reason to do that. We could just be casual friends like before. But if she ever wanted to hang out late night when she has more time, then she had my number. That was the end of it. Well, starting on Monday, Chrissy has been pissed at me. I stopped at their place last night and she had comments for me. I told her my side, and she said I knew Becca had kids and that things would pop up. I said I knew they would, but I don't like my time being wasted. While Becca was cute, her lifestyle is not something I'm into. So we could go back to the way things were. Chrissy kept going at me in a way I've never seen before. Me and Trenton gamed last night, and he said she's still mad, but thinks it might just be pregnancy hormones. Am I the idiot? Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Not the idiot for being honest with yourself and her about the situation that ultimately wasn't what you were looking for. But let's be honest, this was never an effort to make a new friend. You just wanted to get laid. Life happens, and she appeared to be genuinely remorseful. You're the idiot for responding to the situation with a text message suggesting that she would only be good to you as a booty call. So crass and so stupid. Comment 2. I think Becca dodged a bullet. You're the idiot for how you talk to her. You don't have to want to be friends, more than friends, into her lifestyle, etc. You could at least be polite and keep it to yourself that her emergencies with her kid are a waste of time and indication of baggage in your eyes. P.S. She didn't bail on you the second time. She was running late. You bailed. Now for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for all the comments on my last post. I never expected my situation to get so heated, but here's what's happened since then. After my last update, things with Chrissy cooled off a bit. Trenton had a long talk with her, reminding her of the times we'd been there for each other. Like when I helped him through his parents' messy divorce during our sophomore year, or when he supported me after my dog passed away. We've been through a lot, and he didn't want this to come between us. But the real shocker came on Tuesday. Becca showed up at my door unannounced, with her kid in tow and a peace offering. Homemade cookies, her kid's favorite. She looked exhausted, but determined. She admitted she'd been unfair to me, juggling too much and not respecting my time. She proposed a compromise that took me by surprise. Becca suggested we set up a standing monthly night out, just the two of us. No kids, no last-minute cancellations. She'd arranged for her parents to watch her kid in advance. In return, she asked if I could occasionally help her out with some kid-friendly activities, like going to the park or a movie, so she could get a break. It was a fair trade, and it showed she was serious about making our friendship work. I agreed, and we shook on it. The relief in her eyes was evident. She'd been struggling with the pressure of being a single mom and trying to maintain a social life. I realized then that I hadn't been as understanding as I could have been. We all have our struggles, and sometimes we just need a friend to lean on. The first test of our new arrangement came sooner than expected. On Thursday, Becca's parents had an emergency and couldn't take her kid as planned. Instead of cancelling on me, she hired a babysitter. She was determined to keep her promise. We finally made it to that brewery, and it was a blast. We laughed, sampled some great beers, and it felt like old times. But the drama wasn't over. The next day, Chrissy called me, her tone urgent. She was going into early labour and needed someone to take her to the hospital. Trenton was out of town on business, and I was the closest one available. I rushed over, and on the way to the hospital, Chrissy broke down. She confessed she'd been feeling insecure about her changing body and was worried Trenton wouldn't find her attractive anymore. That's why she'd been lashing out at me. It was a moment of vulnerability I hadn't expected from her. I reassured her as best as I could, reminding her of how Trenton's eyes still lit up every time he saw her. I told her about the time Trenton spent an entire night making a scrapbook of their relationship to cheer her up when she was feeling down. She smiled through her tears, and I knew they'd be okay. At the hospital, I stayed until Trenton arrived. Watching them together, their excitement over the new baby made me realize how important these relationships were to me. I'd been so focused on my own feelings that I'd forgotten to consider theirs. The next week, Becca and I took her kid to the park. It was a different kind of hangout than I was used to, but seeing her kid's laughter as we played made it worth it. Becca watched us from a bench, a grateful smile on her face. It was a simple moment, but it felt like a new chapter for us. And just when I thought things were settling down, Trenton dropped another bombshell. He'd been offered a job in another state. It was an incredible opportunity for him, but it meant they'd be moving away. We spent that night reminiscing about our high school escapades, like the time we tried to start a band but couldn't agree on a name, or when we camped out for concert tickets and ended up getting rained on. My maid of honor trashed my gifts, so I cancelled her invite. She played the victim until her new beau showed her true colors. So I'm worried that I might be a bridezilla. So here for unbiased judgment. Me, 28 years old female, and my partner, 30 years old male, got engaged earlier this year. For the wedding, we are keeping it low-key. The only thing I want to be extra with is the experiences with my bridesmaids. Knowing that being a bridesmaid often comes with unwanted costs, dress, heels, hen's party, etc., I wanted to give them a "Will you be my bridesmaid" box as a thank you. These are hampers, usually with a robe that says bridesmaid on them, and a bottle of wine with other treats. It's cheesy, I know, but I wanted to do that for my friends. The ones I purchased cost $345 each, and came with a bottle of champagne, heels, and earrings for the wedding, plus a $100 voucher to go towards the bridesmaid dress, enough to cover the planned dress. Some context here is that my MOH, 30 years old female, is an introvert and is struggling with a breakup from 4 years ago. They dated for almost 8 years. He dumped her and sent her into a depression. I supported her as best I can, but she still struggles. She can't be around couples without going into a "I'm so alone" spiral. I was hoping for my wedding she would put these feelings aside to support me, especially given how much she has a good friendship with my fiancé and how long it's been since the breakup. But she has openly become cold and depressed whenever I mention my wedding. So I had tried to make sure I didn't bring it up around her too much, which brings us to the incident. I invited everyone to a restaurant for lunch and gave them the boxes, asking each of them if they would be my bridesmaid. Everyone thought the boxes were amazing, but MOH went silent and didn't say anything. She excused herself to the bathroom, so I followed her and asked if she was okay. In the bathroom, she accused me of being selfish, putting her on the spot, despite me knowing about her mental health, and that I was tacky for wasting money on a box, especially given I know she doesn't drink a lot, and that I was irresponsible because I had a wedding to pay for. I snapped and told her that I was trying to be nice, and that she could at least pretend to be happy for me and accept the gift. I've always been good with my money, so don't pretend that's the issue. She stormed off, leaving the box behind. My bridesmaids are on my side, but suggested I shouldn't have put her on the spot in public. It's been 8 weeks, and MOH hasn't returned my messages, and I'm honestly thinking that it's time I let her go as a MOH. I honestly was hoping she could be happy for me, and am hurt that she isn't. But I'm also worried that I could just be a bridezilla that is expecting unrealistic things for a wedding, and that I am selfish for wanting her to support me despite her mental health. Am I the idiot here? Edit for info. It's been highlighted that I should add this in. Me and MOH had spoken about this unofficially before lunch, about her being my MOH. I had actually unofficially spoken to every bridesmaid prior, so they all knew that it was my intention to make them a bridesmaid. This was more of an official ask, I guess, where I could give them their gifts. When I spoke to MOH before this lunch, she had agreed to be my MOH. I had at the time asked her if she would be fine with it, and she said she would. The restaurant I chose was also semi-private. We had a room to ourselves, if that helps at all. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Edited after reading post-edit. Not the jerk, since you gave her the heads up and she had already agreed to be the maid of honor. Even before that information, her response seemed extremely childish and made no sense. But now it just seems like someone having a severe mental breakdown. Hope she gets some help, because that is not normal behavior at all. To still be that fixated on a breakup after 4 years is sad enough, but to not be able to watch your friends get married because of it is just plain disgustingly selfish. Comment 2. Not the jerk. I'm an introverted person who suffers from mental illness, and it's up to me to manage how I live with it. Anyone with mental illness has to learn how to work through life. If she couldn't handle being the maid of honor, she should have said something like a big thanks for asking and thinking of her, but it's not something she can do. Now for the update. Hey Reddit, back with an update on the MOH situation. It's been a rough week, and I've got some news. After the lunch disaster, things were tense. I gave MOH space, hoping she'd come around, but then, out of nowhere, she texted me. She wanted to talk. We met at our favorite coffee shop, the one where we'd spent hours studying in college, and where she'd helped me through my own rough patch when I got laid off 2 years ago. She apologized first, said she overreacted. I could tell she'd been crying, her eyes were red, and she had that sniffle she gets when she's been upset. She explained that seeing the box, the heels, the earrings, it all hit her at once. It wasn't just about my wedding. It was about her own dreams that had crumbled with her breakup. She'd always imagined her own wedding, and being at mine as MOH was a stark reminder of what she'd lost. I listened, trying to understand. I remembered how she'd been there for me, like when she helped me pick out the perfect dress for my first job interview, or when she stayed up all night with me after my grandma passed away. I realized I'd been so wrapped up in my wedding that I'd forgotten to be there for her. We both cried, right there in the coffee shop, and the barista, who knew us by name, passed us a stack of napkins. It was a scene, but it felt like a turning point. I told her she didn't have to be MOH if it was too much, but she shook her head, said she wanted to do it for me. She just needed to work through some things. I suggested therapy, and she said she'd been considering it. I told her I'd support her, no matter what. The next surprise came from my fiancé. He'd noticed I was stressed and planned a surprise dinner for us. But when we got to the restaurant, it wasn't just any dinner. He'd invited all the bridesmaids, including MOH. He'd been talking to them, trying to understand what happened, and wanted to help fix it. The dinner was awkward at first. MOH was quiet, and the other girls seemed unsure about what to say. But then my fiancé, bless him, broke the ice. He thanked everyone for being part of our day, and acknowledged that it wasn't just about us, but about celebrating our friendships too. MOH spoke up then. She thanked him for his words and apologized to the group for her behavior. She said she was committed to being there for me, and that she'd started seeing a therapist. The other bridesmaids rallied around her, sharing their own struggles. It turned into a heart-to-heart that none of us expected. The biggest shock came when MOH pulled out her phone. She showed us a picture of a guy she'd been talking to from a dating app. She'd been too embarrassed to tell anyone, but she was going on a date next weekend. We all cheered, and I saw a smile on her face that I hadn't seen in years. As for the wedding planning, it's back on track. MOH is involved, helping me choose flowers now. She's got a good eye for design, always has. She helped me redecorate my apartment when I moved in with my fiancé, turning it from a bachelor pad into a cozy home. The other bridesmaids are excited too. They've started a group chat, sharing ideas and planning the bachelorette party. They're thinking of a spa day, which sounds perfect. Relaxing, no pressure, just us girls hanging out like old times. And the heels from the bridesmaid boxes? Turns out they were a hit. One of the girls wore them to a job interview and landed the position. She said they were her lucky charm. So, things are looking up. MOH is healing, the wedding plans are moving along, and my fiancé and I are stronger than ever. He's been my rock through all of this, reminding me what's important. If you liked this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.